Welcome back, Miami Dolphins. Do the Buffalo Bills end Mike McDaniels' coaching career, or so be it? I have a couple things that I want to talk about before we get into this preview of the game. But before we do that, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. So, right now, this is probably the most pivotal game of Mike McDaniels' tenure, going up against your rival, Buffalo Bills, who pretty much own you every single time. I know a lot of people think that we're going to get blown out, and quite possibly could. I think we're missing Rasul Douglas this game, so we'll see what Anthony Weaver does on the defense, but we just don't have a lot of anything. And I think that the way that this game plays out will be a telltale sign of what we're doing with Mike, because it's one of those things that, this is your fault. At the end of the day, Mike McDaniel is at fault for this. People can blame Chris Grier all you want, but it's not like Chris Grier was just telling Mike he can't organize the roster or anything like that. These are Mike McDaniel's decisions, and coming into this game, at this point, we try and compare the 2023 Dolphins to the, New England Patriots of this year, but to me personally, it's like, it just feels a little different. I feel as though the New England Patriots kind of have more of a stable offense and coach versus the 2023 Dolphins. The offense was crazy good, but if you remember back then, later on in the year, we started, losing badly to the good teams. And that was kind of the key issue with this regime always, is that we never really would put up a fight against the good teams. And this is a Mike McDaniel issue. And I think personally, I don't. People think that we're going to get blown out. I don't know if we'll get blown out, because remember, this is at home. Well, it's not even really like a home game anymore because nobody's going. Fortunately, I'm going to the Bengals game. Yep, that's going to be great for me. But the thing is that, listen, this is all Mike McDaniel's fault. This was choices that you made, getting Tyreek Hill and shooting all your draft picks for all these different things. But the one key to this is that the general manager was the same for a while. But I'm stumbling here. I'm just kind of flabbergasted with the way the season has gone. It's like, it comes down to the type of person that I think is running the Miami Dolphins, and where our culture has changed. Because you compare the New England Patriots to the Miami Dolphins, and this is why I think if we do get blown out, I mean, the Madrid game at this point is going to be a meaningless, worthless game between two losing teams. It sucks, but it is what it is. I think you have to get rid of Mike McDaniel after this game if we get blown out, because this all amounted from choices that we have continually made that were just bad choices that just did not amount to anything. And now we're in a situation where, me personally, I don't think we need to blow everything up. I think we need a few key pieces, but like people keep saying, and it comes down to the coach, is just, I don't think they have a toughness about them. And it's because they're not built right. It's not because, the players on this team aren't tough. I don't really think that that's the case. I just think the team isn't put together right to have a certain amount of toughness. It's like Jordan Brooks can bring it every single week, but when it comes to the offense, it's just not built right. It's not built tough. It's built soft. It's kind of built like a Mike McDaniel team where it's very gadgety. And as an offensive coordinator, that could work, because you're not the leader of the team, but you have to build it right. And I think that's been the biggest issue with this team, is that you haven't built it right. And that's why, it could happen after this game. I know they said that they're going to keep him for the rest of the year, but we know how these things go, with the Miami Dolphins. We know how these games turn out. We were pretty close the last game. We kind of were sticking around most of the game. Don't think we make that many mistakes, but one of the things is that, we've lost Rasul Douglas. I don't think he's going to be playing this game. And at this point, I think the last game we had Tyreek Hill against Buffalo. So it's like this game, which I love that Waddle's in, but this game we only have Waddle. So it's like, you know, their head coach is a very good defensive coordinator. He's going to scheme some stuff up against Waddle. So, and the one thing is like what I never understood about this offense is like Waddle has to run routes down the field. They don't just try and get him the ball in space. And it just, again, all of these things have accumulated to just being, nonsensically mediocre with a pretty talented roster for the most part. And it's because, again, the choices of Mike McDaniel. And I think if we get blown out like we usually do, I think this could be the time that Mike McDaniel just, kind of gives his peace sign and walks into the distance, because it's been choices that he's made, where even though he's a smaller stature type of dude, I think the pride that he had and kind of the arrogance that he got after 2023 hindered him a lot, where he forgot that he was a new head coach, and he forgot that people adjust, and he forgot that the best head coaches in this league aren't guys that have, a burst onto the scene type of thing. It's guys that can consistently put it together, consistently distract the defense, and consistently do things that other people, aren't thinking of. And that's been the problem with him. He had a great offense in 2023. People figured it out. And he really hasn't come up with a whole bunch since. And it's so overly complicated that it's hard to pretty much have all of your team being on the same page about all these things. It's like, again, you put yourself into a pigeonhole where, like I said, this is the reason why he's going to get fired, because you're going to come into this game. One of the players on that team, I remember, on the Buffalo Bills, it's like a perfect example. O'Cyrus Torrence II. He's an offensive lineman. I remember we picked up Cam Smith instead of O'Cyrus Torrence on that draft. He's been a starter in the league for the Buffalo Bills since he was drafted. And he was one of the offensive linemen that fell in that draft. He was supposed to go like the first round, and he was in the second round. We passed on him. We picked up Cam Smith. There's a bunch of reasons. And I think coming down to this game, you could have competed with the Buffalo Bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you made the right choices, if you got the offensive line, if you started stacking up draft picks and picking right, you could have competed with this team for years. You could have been the New England Patriots. But your pride and your arrogance got to your head, and you just thought, I'm just going to keep getting these fast guys, these, doing all these different things, these different trades, because we're going to make it. We're going to do it. And, for someone that's been in the league so long, seeing how cap space works, seeing how, like, different things go about, and seeing how, teams can rise and fall super quickly, you should have known, like, these things happen. You're not trying to go to the Super Bowl just yet when you first grab a team. You're trying to build a team right. And going into this game, if we get blown out, it's going to come down to the accumulation of you just made all the wrong choices. And if you made the right ones, and it's hindsight is 20/20, but even still, if you made the right ones, you would have been competing with the Buffalo Bills. At this point, Buffalo isn't as strong as they used to be. You would have been competing. It wouldn't have been just a 2023 year. It would have been years to come, and we would have been, someone to compete with in this league, because offensively, he's a good offensive coordinator. It's just head coach wise, your pride got in the way of making the right decisions, and it ended up hindering you. So again, this might be the game that Mike McDaniel fades off into the distance, but we'll see what happens. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you think this is going to be his last game, or if you think he's going to be able to continue actually coaching, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. But as always, guys, praise God, love God. He's great all the time. Love you all. Peace.